Special needs. In the context of inclusive education, the term special needs has been understood differently during different periods of time and in different educational contexts. A need refers to a requirement necessary for a person to function satisfactorily in a particular system or situation. Special needs refer to requirements that are different from or additional to those ordinarily required by the majority, because certain individuals or groups may otherwise be unable to participate effectively in a system designed primarily according to the needs of the majority. Therefore, education for all cannot be achieved merely by providing the same educational services to everyone. The different or additional needs of learners must also be identified and addressed. The concept of special needs has been changing over time. Earlier, special education was primarily associated with the education of children with disabilities through separate specialized institutions. Since children with disabilities were often considered unable to benefit effectively from ordinary schools, the need for separate special schools and specialized provisions was emphasized. These included special schools, specialized teachers, special teaching methods, specialized learning materials, special equipment, adapted curriculum, special assessment, rehabilitation, and other support services, etc. Gradually, the focus shifted from merely identifying a disability to identifying the additional or different educational needs of the learners. This led to the development of the concept of special educational needs, in short SEN, according to the International Standard Classification of Education of UNESCO 1997. Special needs education refers to educational intervention and support designed to address special educational needs. Thus, in simple terms, special educational needs refers to the additional or different educational needs of the learner. Special needs education refers to the educational support and intervention provided to address those needs. The concept of special educational needs also extended beyond the traditional categories of disability to include learners whose educational progress was affected by various social, economic, cultural, environmental, psychological, or other circumstances. In India, the terms and concepts related to special needs have not been used uniformly in all programs, projects, policies, and educational documents. Some documents have used the concept mainly in relation to the children with disabilities. Therefore, special needs were only associated with the children with disabilities. For example, the District Primary Education Program (DPEP) primarily associated special educational needs with disabilities such as visual, hearing, locomotor, and intellectual disabilities. Other approaches have adopted a broader understanding. The Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or SSA used the term children with special needs and made provisions for children with disabilities, while also recognizing various disadvantaged and marginalized groups such as girls, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, minorities, and urban deprived children. The National Education Policy 2020 further recognizes the educational disadvantage experienced by socio-economically disadvantaged groups, or SEDGs in short, that includes child labor, homeless children, children affected by natural disasters, social conflict, and living in extreme social and economic deprivation. Thus, although the terminology and scope have varied across different documents, the general movement has been from a relatively narrow focus on disability towards a broader recognition of diverse barriers to education, evolving understanding of educational needs. Therefore, the broader understanding of special needs has also broadened the range of educational needs that must be identified and addressed. Broadly Broadly speaking, the perceived need initially focused on special schools, and in the subsequent period, the focus shifted towards integrating learners into general schools with additional support, and later towards inclusive education, in which the educational system itself is expected to adapt to learner diversity. Special school. Initially, the perceived needs of children with disabilities were addressed through separate special schools that needed specialized teachers, specialized materials, special equipment, and specialized educational methods. Integrated education approach involved integrating learners with disabilities into the general educational system and created the need for additional support and provisions. That includes accessible infrastructure, suitable teaching and learning arrangements, transport, scholarships, appropriate assessment, support services, and protection against discrimination. The later approach, or the current approach, is inclusive education. Subsequently, it became clear that merely placing a learner in a general school does not necessarily ensure participation, learning, or success. Therefore, the educational system itself must adapt to learner diversity. Therefore, there was a need for flexible curriculum, differentiated and diversified instruction, specialized learning materials, assistive devices and technology, appropriate assessment and evaluation, trained teachers and professionals, counseling and other support services, and opportunities for participation in all aspects of educational life. So, how to identify special needs? Special needs can be understood from the characteristics of different groups of learners and the barriers they may experience in effective participation. The barriers may be related to the following: movement and physical mobility, access to the educational environment, seeing and reading, hearing and communication, writing, understanding and processing information, following the usual pace of learning, sustaining attention, social interaction, regular attendance, and participation in educational activities. Some learners may also experience insecurity, isolation, withdrawal, shame, anxiety, frustration, agitation, rebellious behavior, depression, absenteeism, and truancy. These should not be regarded as fixed characteristics of all learners belonging to a particular group. They may arise from the interaction between the learner and the educational, social, and/or environmental conditions surrounding the learner. Major educational needs. On the basis of the above, the needs could be categorized as follows: accessible infrastructure, that includes buildings, ramps, suitable seating, accessible toilets, appropriate lighting, ventilation, playgrounds, and transport. Additional time for reading, writing, and processing information, completing classroom activities, and writing examinations. Curriculum adaptation. This includes modified learning objectives, flexible content, suitable learning activities, and opportunities for recreation, games, sports, and co-curricular activities. Adapted teaching and instruction, including flexible teaching methods, individualized or differentiated instruction, repetition, reinforcement, alternative communication, and appropriate classroom strategies may be the need of some groups of students that need to be understood. Specialized learning materials such as braille, enlarged print, audio, tactile, visual, simplified, and other accessible learning materials should be provided. Assistive devices and technology. This includes communication devices, hearing devices, screen readers, adapted computers, and other assistive technologies. Special equipment. This may include the equipments need to support movement, communication, learning, writing, reading, participation, etc. Trained teachers and professionals, including the children with disabilities and disadvantages, need special educators, counselors, therapists, interpreters, rehabilitation professionals, and other trained personnel. Adapted assessment and evaluation, including additional time, alternative modes of answering, adapted question papers, accessible assessment materials, and reasonable accommodation may be some of the needs under this head. Financial and material support. This includes scholarship, financial assistance, free educational materials, free transport, and other forms of supports. Social, emotional, and psychological support, including counseling, emotional support, protection from discrimination, support for social interaction, self-confidence, and a sense of belonging are the needs under this category. Communication and language support. This includes appropriate communication systems, language support, interpretation, alternative and augmentative communication, and other support required for effective communication and participation. Let us conclude by saying that the concept of special needs has developed considerably over time. It began with a narrow approach in which special education largely limited to educational. The concept of special needs has developed considerably over time. It began with a narrow approach in which special education largely limited educational needs to the needs of children with certain disabilities. After the enactment of the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, attention was extended to the barriers experienced by persons with disabilities across the 21 specified disabilities. The Right of Children to Free Compulsory Education Act 2009 and the subsequent developments in the educational policy, including NEP 2020, further broadened attention to the learners belonging to socio-economically disadvantaged groups, or in short SEDGs. The special needs are not fixed. The understanding may expand over time in response to changing educational, social, and policy perspectives. Therefore, special needs should not be understood merely as the characteristics of a particular disability or learner category. The idea here is different learners and circumstances may create different barriers. Different barriers create different needs, and prospective teachers are therefore expected to identify the diverse needs of different groups of learners and provide appropriate support to meet those needs effectively. Thank you.